Welcome to the Well Workplaces podcast. I'm your host, Tom Bosner, and today I've got the honour of speaking with the very innovative Dean Katz, who's the co-founder of Third Place. Dean, welcome.
Hello, Tom. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and looking forward to speaking with you and your listeners.
Yes. Well, we were just talking before about our where we are in Melbourne and what's going on, and Dean had a great idea of opening up our Freedom Day for Melbourne Cup, which I thought was a genius idea. Where did that come from, mate?
I'd read that somewhere. It may have been one of the CEOs of one of the hospitality hotel, big hotel operators, or perhaps it was Racing Victoria or something, which would make a lot.
It's a brilliant idea. We were just saying as well that if that did happen, that would probably be back into a lockdown pretty quickly, because people would be absolutely so keen to get out there and socialise again.
Right. So back in lockdown, Derby Day.
Yeah, that's it. Now, today we're talking about the future of workspace, and the reason for getting Dean on to talk about his business Third Place is because when we talk about well-being, one of the key aspects of well-being, and it's funny that we started with talking about going to the racetrack, is because for your well-being, one of the most important things is having a strong connection of community, having friends that you like hanging out with. And in a workplace setting, we know that if you've got a best friend at work or someone that you really connect with, your well-being levels really increase, and that's backed up by a lot of research out there. So, Dean, I'm really interested in talking about, I guess, the future of workspace, because your business Third Place is obviously an innovator in this, and we know at the moment that a lot of industries are being affected by COVID and lockdowns and things like that. And I don't know about you, but on my Fridays, I like to I used to call it Future Friday. So on my Friday, I like to sort of think a little bit ahead and going, all right, well, have I done what I've wanted to do? Are we doing what we want to be doing at Pinnacle going forward? A little bit of a chance to think ahead. So it's good to get you on today to talk about probably where you see things heading with workspaces and obviously Third Place. But Dean, maybe a good place to start is what is Third Place? What does that mean?
Yeah. So look, Third Place is really a marketplace, right? We're a marketplace for people to find inspiring, productive, collaborative spaces to work remotely. We say as a balance between working from home, which is typically the first place, and working from the office, which is typically the second place. And so we focus on these third places. Third places are those other places that you go to. It can be hospitality venues, cafes, restaurants. It might be the beach. It might be the park. It might be a library. It might be that private space that you go to. One, because it's your happy place. It's somewhere you can go. You can be inspired. You can relax. You can be yourself. You can connect. You can connect with other people. You can connect with the community. You can connect with the environment and nature. And so that's the broad definition of a third place. It came about by a sociologist called Ray Oldenburg, and he wrote his book, The Great Good Place. I won't go into it now unless you want me to. I've written down. He wrote in his book the 8 characteristics of a third place, and so it's all those things that I've already mentioned now around activity and a happy space, a place where you can belong, and so that's what a third place is. And I'd love to tell you more about our marketplace and and the movement that we're behind.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. With that, with the Third Place, just to stay on that for a second. So, is this the bloke that talked about the happy triangle? So basically, like if you work, live, and play in a tight knit triangle geographically, then your well-being is meant to be in an optimal sort of state, versus someone who, say, has a long commute, maybe doesn't get out and play that much, for example. Is that the same dude, or am I have I mixed those up?
I don't know if it's the same. I don't know if it's the same guy, but the principles are exactly right because I guess pre-COVID, we were all very well into the daily mundane routine of really, our work guiding our life. So you commuted into the office. I've got an office in the Melbourne CBD, and so I'd spend my hour and a half, at 8 o'clock in the car, and I drive through the heaviest peak hour traffic to get in there. And I do the same thing on the way home. Work-life balance was always spoken about, of course, and the better firms and the better companies managed to somehow give their staff work-life balance. Flexible working was always spoken about as something that was, available, that people could have availed themselves of, but you never really did it because it wasn't sort of the done thing. And so the third place, and particularly now, after COVID, is we've got this opportunity for real work-life balance in a world which results in greater productivity on the work front, but greater happiness, and that ability to live your life and mold your work around your life without losing the productivity that is so obviously necessary for our employers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's often talked about as work-life integration, isn't it? And today, at home, I've just picked up my daughter from daycare early, and and my wife's working as well, and I'm in here talking to you. So it's kind of funny how all of those things we've like, this COVID has been an annoying, created a very disruptive year and a half now, and probably will continue to disrupt us. But I guess what is pretty interesting is how resilient we are as people, and how we can be flexible and work around it. And I guess through that comes opportunities to do things differently in the future. And so it'd be great to talk about third place and introduce your marketplace, if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I had started, alluding to, third place is a marketplace similar to Airbnb. In fact, some are calling us the Airbnb of remote work, focused specifically on the hospitality sector at the moment. So just like Airbnb, we are that marketplace of hospitality venues, cafes, restaurants, hotels. They can easily jump onto our platform and list a space, inspiring, collaborative, productive, private, and set all their kind of features that are remote and workplace friendly. And then our users, who are typically corporates and their employees, or some freelancers and some in the startup community, can very simply jump on our platform, search by location and various features that they'd like. It might be a place that's near home. It might be a place between them and their colleague, or it might be a sort of medium ground place for their whole team of 5 or team of 10. That will show up as a whole bunch of listings, and you can find them, book them, send across a meeting invite, turn up and work there for the hour, work there for a couple of hours, or work there for the day. And so that's our marketplace. And what we've kind of found, those as we've built the marketplace and we've onboarded hospitality venues and we've onboarded corporates, is there is a far greater movement that we're pushing towards, which is really this idea of helping to revitalize the hospitality industry. Who have, as we know, suffered badly during this pandemic, probably the hardest hit industry, with upward tourism, since the start of the pandemic. And we can also support the mental health and well-being of the corporate workforce, who for too long now, as I think we can all appreciate, have, one, been in lockdown, two, have been forced to socially distance and live a life of isolation. And again, by pushing this movement, this work from hospo third place movement, we believe we can put these millions of people who are now working remotely back into these beautiful, inspiring hospitality spaces to reconnect with each other, with their colleagues, with their clients, and with their community as the pandemic starts to ease, and as it is doing in many other jurisdictions, and people start getting out.
Yeah, great summary, mate. And what I do love about your platform and your marketplace is what the hospitality side. I mean, that industry's got to be one of the most affected by the pandemic everywhere, right? So
Yeah.
effectively being able to list their spaces, and they are beautiful. They're always beautiful spaces. I've always found myself pre-COVID jumping in a cafe. I've got a local cafe that I would use. It's a really nice space, and I'll go there when I'm probably feeling like I need some space to think a little bit more, like because of the way that it's set up. And I tend to find I get some really good work done there because it's a different environment. And I'll also meet with my business partner who lives in the same area, and it's kind of like that middle place where we get some interesting ideas done. And I think it's because we've changed the environment. We're not in our normal sort of setup there. So yeah, really, really cool. And with the spaces that are being listed, I guess as well, what you're providing is the venues a chance to maybe rethink how they will be operating in the future as well. Is that part of the idea as well?
Yeah, look, 100%. That's, so to go to a few of your points. I mean, what we're seeing with firstly, there's probably not a listener, of your podcast who hasn't done exactly what you'd mentioned at one point or another. And I used to do it all the time, go and find a cafe. It may have been I was working in the city and I would need to get out of the office just for a bit, either during lunch and maybe an hour after, or sometimes just to avoid some of the distractions, or at home. So what we've done is managed to, I guess, formalize what is a very natural, normal behavior. And it's not surprising because, yes, these third place hospitality spaces, they do really offer great places to work, a certain type of work. There's a bit of background noise if that's what you like, PowerPoints, great Wi-Fi, food and beverage and coffee, which we all necessarily need. And so, yes, we see taking an existing behavior and adopting it. What we're seeing on the corporate level is a lot of the offices are now looking at how are they going to get people out of their homes and back into the office, because again, they recognize, same as what we've been mentioning, that people need to reconnect, and the office is a great place to do that, and people are missing that to a large extent. And so what they're trying to almost do with corporate office space is how do they make that more hospitable? How do they give that more of a hospitality feel? And I guess we're kind of coming from the other way and saying, how do we give hospitality more of a workplace feel? Not to turn them into co-working space, but just to form a part of the beautiful ecosystem of home, office, and third place. And so, yeah, in the future, we do see through our movement and through our platform, venues installing more PowerPoints if they're looking to do a new build or even a little renovation, paying close attention to PowerPoints, and we're seeing this already with a number of our customers who are now upgrading their Wi-Fi to super fast Wi-Fi, faster than you've got at your home, for example, right? We can see spaces being designed for privacy that you might be able to close off with maybe TV screens and Zoom rooms and all those things which we see, the next 3, 4, potentially 5 years could come into play.
Yeah, really interesting. Because on the flip side as well, Dean, as the hospitality space has changed, so will the commercial spaces with, as you were saying before, some of the companies will be probably looking at, okay, well, where the future is in the immediate future is hybrid working. So what that does mean is that they'll need less space, potentially. And so like what you were saying, these spaces or these workplaces need to change as well. So they need to be, there's a strong theme around well-being as well. So the old open plan office, which was really sold through that hot desking sort of phase, which was maybe 10 years ago, that was good in theory. But what we've found through research is that for introverts, if you saw anyone in the office with headphones on, chances are they were introverts and probably doing quite well at home at their home environment. Whereas the extroverts, which, let's assume that's 50% of people, don't mind that open space. But I guess with the being able to bring it all together into a marketplace is sort of that beautiful matching arrangement with the people that are looking. So someone like me looking for a space that's not I don't want to go into the city. I just want to go nearby, but also a space that's also wants to host me, because sometimes there's that awkward thing of I don't want to be sitting in a cafe ordering my third coffee for the day and it's 3 p.m. and I'm just doing it because I feel guilty that I'm just sitting there holding a table.
Yeah, look, spot on. And we've had, naturally, we've had a lot of these kind of conversations with our customer base, the hospitality side customer base. And so that is a beautiful barrier that we break down, because if they have chosen to list on our marketplace and adopt the third place philosophy, they have accepted that they would rather someone sitting in their restaurant or cafe than sitting in someone else's. But it actually, it even goes a bit further than that. Again, because of this remote work economy and companies now really adopting that, sure, there are some companies that have come out in the media, that have said, no way, we're going back into the office as soon as we can. But there's no denying, and there's lists and lists of corporates that have that are embracing it right now. What they're looking to do, and what the conversations that we're having with them is that they're saying we're happy to actually start to spend money on our staff by way of an allowance, a staff benefit, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month for each employee, especially if we're still keeping our office but shrinking the office space down or changing its nature. Providing that allowance, again, to give back to their staff, to make them happier, to give them that hospitality feel, instead of having all the food and beverage inside the CBD office where you have to commute for 2 or 3 hours. Let's put that back into their hands and let's let them choose how they want to spend it, whether it's going and working on your own and having a burger and chips while you're doing it because that's what makes you happy, or your salad if you want to eat a bit healthier. Or can I meet up with Tom? You and I go and catch up together. Can we have our weekly team meeting in a separate location? Can we change up the location again to keep things creative and a bit different and cater for the different locality and geographic locations of all our staff? That's exactly.
I love it. Yeah, one of the things I think I was writing about last year, probably right at the start of all of this, is one of the biggest challenge for leaders, I feel, is creating or maintaining connection through this time. So I kind of see third place in the long run as a way of, I guess, teams maintaining social connection, because really without that, like what are we really doing? We're sitting at home connecting online like we're doing now. But if we were teammates and we chatted once a week just like this, it's not engaging in the long term. And also for the companies that are wanting to do well-being isn't just offering yoga classes once a week, or I think we were speaking about that maybe last week, Dean, where we were talking about webinar, like, cool, another Wellness Wednesday webinar. Like there needs to be new thinking around this, and flexible working is not a new concept. However, changing your environment every week into in new spaces with your same team members, it's a fantastic concept that could be part of an overall wellbeing policy as well.
That's exactly right. I mean, I've had some futuristic thoughts around this, and again, in a lot of reading that I do, there's a lot of talk around, okay, companies, great, adopting a hybrid or a remote policy. What does that mean for, I guess, the senior leadership team and then, middle managers? Because it's really that role that's fundamentally changing. Because it was, the whole reason offices existed was so that those middle managers could see their staff, could know they were working, sitting at their desk, factory settings, etc. And so, again, one use case that I've thought just for third place in terms of my day job, I'm a partner at a law firm, and so of course oversee a group of lawyers, was okay. Mondays I go and work in Williamstown with staff member 1 and staff member 2. On Tuesdays I go and meet with staff member 3 in Richmond. That's where they live, or it's somewhere nearby. And so again, and that could be for week 1, and then week 2 we all get together, and week 3, and you can be as creative as you like. But the beautiful thing about Third Place is that as we're building and growing, the idea is that it's work from anywhere, everywhere. There is a cafe, a restaurant, a hotel located from CBD to suburban to regional, and we've got a lot of lovely, great regional hotels on our site. To be able to do that sort of thing, work from anywhere.
Yeah, fantastic. I think as well, back on, I guess, to manage, like what your example there with leaders, the responsibility is, connection, and I guess it's more of an empathetic sort of role than maybe what it was 10 years ago. We really need to know our people and our staff, and also find those connection points for the greater team. I guess as well with this, mental health, I know, is a very big it's in the media every day. We're talking about it all the time. And from the data that we're collecting through our mental health services at Pinnacle Health Group, we know that one of the main factors for people right now with mental health is simply the isolation is the huge thing. So, and there's also some commentary or fear around that when I go back to the workplace. And we saw that actually earlier in the year, when we were coming out of lockdowns and we were sort of going back to the office, there was a little cohort that was really, I guess, concerned about going back to work. And it was kind of, it wasn't really fear of getting the virus. It was kind of almost a social anxiety thing as well. So kind of as we think ahead into, let's just say it's next year that we're kind of getting back to some normality. I hope it's sooner. That this sort of idea of leaders thinking creatively about how they can connect with their people, this kind of idea of connecting with them in third places is a really innovative thought, I think.
Exactly. It's different. And look, to a point that you'd mentioned before around, wellness programs and mental health and wellness programs and employee assistance programs. I mean, and you'd be far more across this in your line of business even than what I am, but based on my firsthand experience, having seen the emails go out from talent and culture, and that all amazing intentions, wonderful job, and even that role, and I've heard some of your previous podcasts, the role of talent and culture and chief of people is just grown enormously. But a lot of it is, again, with the best of intentions. It's have another trivia night or a trivia day, or let's use this new digital platform that's gonna help us to connect a bit more, or let's have a wine tasting, or it's not the same. I mean, it's just not the same, right? And I think we're realizing that as humans, while we can get so much done with technology and Zoom and Teams, and that's allowed us to work from anywhere and be more agile. Yes, we have to come up with creative ways to start to get people back together. And we're seeing it, we're seeing it with the corporates that we're speaking to. Is obviously we're still in lockdown right now. So it's on one hand, it's a strange thing to be having this conversation, talking about Third Place, saying we want to get people working from these venues. Well, you can't during lockdown, but the discussions we're having with them and the way that they're putting it to their staff is, hey, look at Third Place. We're adopting it. We're embracing it. We're jumping on the platform. We're going to be giving all of you $200-$300 using the Airwallex card, which is the Third Place Airwallex card that we're partnering with them on. As soon as we get out of lockdown, as soon as that happens and we can go and work from these spaces, this is what you guys have to look forward to. And your team leader is going to catch up with you here and there, and we're going to try and experiment. I know I'm biased, but coming back from the feedback from our corporates, that's exciting, and the employees are excited by that. And that's what we feel we need to do, is sort of give people hope and something really to look forward to on this wellness side.
Yeah, definitely. I think hope is the key thing. That's the whole point of a Future Friday, is to feel hopeful for what's ahead of us. And this why I like this as well, is it's a solution. And we've spent a lot of time talking about problems lately. This is nice to be talking about something a bit more proactive. Dean, I've got one more question for you, actually. Just in regards, so Third Place, as it kind of picks up and takes off, and I know you're doing a bit in internationally as well. What do you see as being the key future applications of this as it evolves? Do you see that the workplace becomes more remote, more stays hybrid? What are your thoughts there? And also just with the platform, what are you hoping to do in the coming years?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Well, yeah. So, I mean, when we launched this, we actually first launched in Brisbane, because at that time, despite myself and two of the other co-founders living in Melbourne, we do have another co-founder lives in the Gold Coast, and they were open. We were going through our lockdowns here, so we picked that market first. We then brought it to Melbourne and now Sydney as well. And of course, given the state that we're in Australia, we've realised that we've built and grown it, and we'll continue to obviously continue to call Australia home, but we've had to also pivot a bit. And so we've jumped and done a sort of soft launch into the UK. As you and some of your listeners would know, they've had their Freedom Day and they've started opening up. Restaurants and cafes and all these third places are now open. People are starting to go back into the office. And so it's been a very wonderful soft launch in there. We've already had a lot of interest from corporates, and we've got some great venues on. And so, yeah, I think as more and more of these markets open up, we're going to tap into them. The US, of course, Asia. And so, 5-10 years down the track, I think we'll be in all those markets. That's our ambition. And in fact, we see that this business thriving in that sort of 2 or 3 year post-COVID, once companies sort of start to settle down and really understand how this hybrid sort of thing works. But there's a real clear intention from companies. I mentioned before that there's a number that have made these announcements. I mean, I'll just ramble off a couple, and again, the listeners can check out what they're doing. Atlassian has come out; they're building a $1 billion facility in Sydney, Barangaroo, but they've announced that they're happy for their staff to come into the office 4 times a year. That's it. Otherwise, they've named it the Team Anywhere policy. LinkedIn is allowed on this platform has allowed all their employees to work remotely permanently going forward. They've made that announcement. Deloitte has in the UK has made a similar announcement, again, fully embracing hybrid and remote work. Telstra back here at home have announced their location agnostic policy. Hitachi, Japanese electronics. So you can sort of start seeing that it's happening across tech companies, consulting companies. The banks will move a similar way, and it's happening across the globe. In fact, this was quite interesting. A recent announcement only just yesterday that GSA, which is one of the US government departments, I think it's General Services Administration, they've got the largest office footprint, something like 700 square meters of office footprint, servicing over 2 million employees. They have just awarded a contract to WeWork, Liquid Space, and two or three other flex co-working operators, because they have embraced work from anywhere. And so I think if a government body is taking that that approach, and in the US and awarding those types of contracts, I think there's definitely this is going to be the way of the future for companies that can manage it. And again, we just see Third Place forming a part of that whole ecosystem: home, office, and Third Place.
That's a great summary, Dean. Really beautiful note to finish on. I think for those that are listening that are in the wellbeing space, this would be a great chance to maybe connect with Dean via LinkedIn. How I see this fitting in is really that flexibility piece, the employee wellbeing policy piece, and finding a new creative way of connecting with your team and also for your leaders as well. Dean, thanks so much for your time. And I guess for our listeners that are either watching or listening to this, they can reach out to Dean directly on LinkedIn, or perhaps heading on the Third Place website as well to check it out. But yeah, thanks again, Dean. It's a great chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Great to chat.